Hey, everybody. Good morning. This is Morning Formation. My name is Adam Bratz with the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for joining us. Morning Formation is our way of sharing information and resources with the wider Wisconsin business community. And oh my goodness, look at this. Wow. I should have checked my hair before going in. My goodness, that's pretty impressive. I appreciate you guys being with us this morning. Really excited for our guest today. So I'm going to make sure that I zip my lips as quick as possible and get right to the good stuff and get to the information that you are looking for. Couple housekeeping items. Make sure to any comments or questions that you have, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, please feel free to throw them in the chat. And myself or our guest, who I'm going to introduce here in a second, will address them ASAP. This is, always an open forum. We are here to answer your questions about business or life or anything in between. So our guest today, one more housekeeping thing. Please follow us on social. I'm going to throw a link in the comments here. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. We are all over the place. I'm going to post a link here. Feel free to follow us on each of these separate platforms. Sign up for our mailing list, all that fun stuff. We wear a little bit of a different hat on each platform. So we bring a little different piece of value to your world on Twitter than we do on LinkedIn or Facebook. So make sure to follow us across the board. Okay, we've got people watching. We got our comment section flying, so that's good. I'm going to introduce our guest here. Let me pop him up on the screen. So this is Brent Halfwassen. He is the founder, the president of Halfwassen Associates. He's an entrepreneur coach, certified entrepreneurial mindset facilitator. He's a guy that really knows his stuff, and he focuses on entrepreneurs who are serious about establishing deep roots in the community. He focuses on removing obstacles, making connections so you can launch right now, become the entrepreneur that you are meant to be. So for those of you that are veteran-friendly business owners, that are business owners, that are veteran business owners, or even thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, this chat is going to be for you. In addition to his work coaching with entrepreneurs, I'm just going through his bio here, and I want to ask you here about the end of this. He's worked with entrepreneurs. He's worked in corporate finance. He's part of the staff that launched a church in downtown Milwaukee. He's a guy that's active in his community. He's a general manager for a nonprofit, and is most recently working as a management and real estate consultant to repurpose a 2,000-acre former World War II ordnance plant. So that's pretty incredible. He's got a wife, 2 excellent kids, 2 dogs, and he flies small aircraft for the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary during warmer months, which is what I want to ask you about. Okay, now I'm going to shut up, ladies and gentlemen. Brent Halfwassen, how you doing this morning?
Thanks, Ed. I'm happy to be on the show today. Thanks for bringing me on. I really appreciate it.
Right on. So you fly small aircraft for the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary. How did you get that gig?
Yeah, well, actually, long story. My dad was he trained in the Navy during Vietnam to fly, and he's been flying ever since. And so I was flying right seat with him for a long time, since I couldn't even reach the pedals and barely see over the windshield. So he actually got involved in that first. And turns out, as many of your viewers probably already know, the Coast Guard does a lot of missions, but one of the big ones here is the Great Lakes. The Coast Guard has jurisdiction over all the Great Lakes, and they need a lot of support. They've got our air station here that we support is in Traverse City, Michigan. They also bring some choppers over to Waukegan over the summer, but they need help with logistics. They need help sometimes bringing passengers around, and they need help doing patrols. So the Coast Guard Auxiliary is a volunteer division of the Coast Guard, where they ask people, hey, are you willing to get in your aircraft, your facility, and do some flying for us to help us out? So that's been an amazing treat, and I love being able to serve those the folks on the gold side, as we call them. Some of their best thrills being able to hop in the plane and take a short ride from Traverse City to Duluth direct, versus having to go Traverse City to maybe Cleveland to Chicago to Duluth, going the commercial route. So
right on. Well, very cool. Well, we appreciate you being here, and we appreciate you being willing to share your expertise and your knowledge. Really excited for your presentation today. And again, folks that are watching, we do have a handful that are watching right now, which is spectacular. Please, if you have questions for Brent as he's going on, I know he's got a video presentation that he wants to share with you, which we watched a little bit of earlier that I think is really awesome, that you're going to want to definitely see that. And he's got an interactive portion. If you have questions, comments, anything in between, please throw them in the chat again if you're watching on any platform, and we will address them in real time. Also, I threw a link in the comments. Make sure to please follow us across all platforms. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Brent.
Hey, thanks, Adam, again. Welcome, everyone. Appreciate you joining us, whether you're streaming with us live or you're watching the recording later on. It's a super privilege to be here. And I love what the Veterans Chamber is doing here and continue to support all these businesses. So thanks for this. As Adam mentioned, I am passionate about people getting rooted in their own communities. Look, I want to help solve problems. I want to create opportunities for people to be able to thrive and flourish. I don't believe there are any dead ends. I think there are roadblocks to overcome. I think there are obstacles to avoid. And I think there are challenges to attack. If we can keep that mindset, and that's what I want to talk about today, if we can keep that mindset, there's a lot we can accomplish. And I don't think anyone would argue that 2020 has been the type of year that maybe we'd like to turn the page, and we're kind of hoping for that new calendar to get going right now. So there's been a lot of obstacles. There have been a lot of roadblocks. There have been a lot of challenges. And so that's why we want to talk about focusing on what we have and how we can make do with that. So while we get going here, I would love if people would sort of weigh in on the comments. If you did serve, just sort of maybe weigh in with which branch of the military you were in. And if you're a veteran-friendly organization that didn't serve directly, just go ahead and throw in the comments maybe how you got involved or how you got aware of the Veterans Chamber. I think that would just help us as we keep moving about our conversation here. So as I mentioned, I'm passionate about solving problems for others. That is what I think the definition of an entrepreneur is. Entrepreneurs are always seeking problems and opportunities and ways to help other people. Whether you can monetize it or not, that's not what we're talking about today. Whether you can make money on it or not, that's not what we're talking about yet. I really want those. I want those focus to be around solving others, because when our minds are constantly looking around on ways to solve others' problems, I think we're going to find those opportunities. We're going to find those ways to be able to monetize. So, and with that, that's why I think this is a great group to be able to share that on, because I think if you have that focus and that passion to be able to serve, you have that ability to be able to dig in and solve some of those problems. Mindset. What do I mean when I talk about mindset? It could feel a little woo-woo to people. It could seem soft skills, but I want to challenge some commonly held beliefs. I believe that business is more than putting together a business plan, figuring out how to master Twitter, and knowing how to do a budget. And that comes from a longtime finance guy. I did finance at General Electric, and we did a lot of all those pieces. But what I think is really key, that is the essence of an entrepreneur, and what I think really distinguishes excellent businesses from ones that maybe are struggle or having difficulty, are some of these mindset pieces. What I'm talking about is the willingness to challenge our own assumptions and beliefs and continuously test them to make sure that we're grounded in reality. And guess who gets to define that reality? It's our customers. So when we're looking at everything through our customer's point of view, continually challenging beliefs and assumptions, I believe we're going to get in a mindset that's going to allow us to adjust, that's going to allow us to understand that there's an obstacle there and that we need to figure out how to avoid it, that there's a challenge that we need to figure out how to attack. But there's no better way, in my opinion, to really get to know that than if we're out there, we're understanding from customers, and we're really being honest about our own beliefs, our own assumptions. Just give you an example. I've seen quite a few hundred of entrepreneurs so far, and a typical approach is, I am good at doing a specific skill or talent. I go with the cupcake baker. I make phenomenal cupcakes. When I throw a birthday party and I make cupcakes for everyone, people rave about it. And I say and therefore my belief and assumption is that anyone in the world wants to buy and eat my cupcakes. So just real quick, a few beliefs in some of the first assumptions that everyone likes cupcakes. That's maybe not necessarily true. So you got to challenge that assumption. The next belief is that everyone in the world is really your target market. That's usually not there. And then it's, I can do 12 in my kitchen at home, but can I do 1,000 every day where quality matters when my chief baker calls at 3 o'clock in the morning and says, sorry, I'm not going to come in today. That's a whole different world that we need to really have a framework around understanding our challenges and assumptions. So before I keep going on, and I have some other comments, and I do still want people to be able to weigh in with where you served or how you got connected with the Veterans Chamber. Would love to see some more of those comments come in. I do want to share this. It's about an 8-minute clip about Dawn Halfacre. Dawn, you may have heard about Dawn from a variety of different sources. She's an amazing lady, and her story is, I think, going to be inspirational. She's going to share with us about her experience of focusing on what we have. And this clip comes from a great program on the entrepreneurial mindset, from the Ice House Entrepreneurial Mindset program. It's based on the true life story of Clifton Talbert and his growing up with his Uncle Cleve in the Deep South, where his uncle was ran an ice house and provided ice to people in the field and created opportunities in an environment where most people would look at that and say, there is no way this man's going to be able to succeed. And they've drawn on entrepreneur stories like Dawn. So let's go ahead and play this clip. And I'd love to talk about it more. And for those of you who are on, if you hear things that really resonate with you, go ahead and drop it in the chat. Let it pop up, because I think being interactive as much as we can in these is a great way both to learn and continue to share what's going on. So with that, let's go ahead and fire it up.
For some, becoming an entrepreneur is a lifelong dream.
Brent may have stepped away there for a minute. Brent, if you're still there, you need to just turn your mic back.
And connection.
There we go.
And
you need me to reset that? We can go back.
Yeah, let's start it over. Let's start it over. I want to hear what she has to say.
I think hearing what she has to say is a good deal. All right.
Right on.
For some, becoming an entrepreneur is a lifelong dream. For others, it becomes a matter of necessity or survival. As an Army captain serving in Iraq, Dawn Halfacre never thought of herself as an entrepreneur. After being severely wounded, she found herself struggling to imagine her future without her right arm. Yet an unexpected encounter shifted her perspective and enabled her to focus on what she had rather than on what she had lost.
Well, I definitely wouldn't consider myself at any point in my life entrepreneurial necessarily. I mean, I always associated that term with, somebody who's thinking of these amazing ideas and inventing something, and then somehow, goes to market and makes a lot of money. And and for me, I've always kind of walked to the beat of my own drum. I've always seen opportunities and connections and things that could be bigger than they were. I think the turning point for me, like I said, I woke up from a coma, and, my dad had to explain to me where I was, why I was there, and, what had happened. And I remember looking at my right side and seeing that I didn't have an arm and thinking like, wow, like my life is over. And, I was, a little bit feeling sorry for myself, and, didn't really think that I could amount to much coming out of the situation. And, but quickly my mindset changed, and really the turning point was when, I was at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, DC, and they, the therapist came in and they said, okay, we need to you're going to go down to the PT clinic, which is where, everybody kind of does their physical rehab. And I hadn't been down there yet. I still wasn't walking. I was, so they wheeled me down there. And the first thing I saw was this staff sergeant who had lost both of his legs and had some facial scarring and burns. And I saw him walk for the first time on his new legs. And I thought, oh my God, I'm sitting here missing an arm. Like, that's nothing. Look at what he's doing. Look what he's going through. And his kids and family were there cheering him on. And, I just realized that I felt like I was being a little selfish, and I felt like I was, what did I have to feel bad about? And, look at all these people, and not just him, but everybody. They were inspiring and motivating. And I thought, wow, like, they can do it. I can do it. And, right then, my mindset changed forever. I think I wound up with the business through survival. I desperately wanted to stay connected with the mission and what was going on kind of on the ground for me. Having left Iraq and been injured, and the thought that my soldiers were still downrange, and that being back here, having lost my arm and gone through everything that I went through, nearly lost my life. I wanted to prove that that I was okay, and that and I wanted to get back and be part of the fight. And so when I started to interview and looked at what was I going to do, I essentially lost my military career, and I felt like I was going to lose everything that I had worked for. And so there were just a lot of things going through my mind. But as I looked around at different jobs, I didn't see anything that fit the bill, that was really going to allow me to do what I wanted to do. Every day I'm in situations where I feel like I'm over my head, and when I'm not in those situations, that's probably when I should start to worry. But for me also, going through what I went through, and having lost my arm, and facing little challenges day in and day out. Just sometimes carrying all the stuff I need from my car, or getting to a meeting, and the logistics involved with that, it's complicated. So all the time I have to innovate on the fly and figure out how I'm going to do little things here and there. And I feel like, that's in some ways, that's the way the business is. It's constantly, challenging ourselves and looking at how we can solve hard problems and tackle issues. And, luckily we have a lot of smart people that can work through that. But a lot of it is, really just going for it and saying, hey, I think we can solve this. I definitely think that, adversity really can empower people to do amazing things. And I think that there's different elements of it, but I know that, for me, I learned a lot through my adversity, and I felt like I grew up fairly quickly because of it. And, I learned a lot of things, and it really does kind of fuel me every day. I feel lucky to be alive every day. I know that may sound a little cliche, but I do. I realize what life could be like, and I realize how lucky I am. And I feel like I owe it to, some of my best friends who didn't make it back home from Iraq alive. And, I owe it to them, and I owe it to, to a lot of people that aren't as lucky as I am to capitalize on the opportunities that I have. Yeah. My situation was really, they say necessity breeds innovation. And I think that to a degree that's true. And that was true in my case, but it was also, the way I look at things, and really always having that open mind to, no matter what situation it is. Like sometimes, I meet with so many people during the day, and I, learn so much every day. And sometimes I'm shocked at the fact that, that people will shut down in a way and close themselves off to an experience or an opportunity, a learning opportunity, because they think they already know what's going to happen, or what that's going to be like, or, what this client's going to say, or, and it's so important that we open ourselves up to to being able to learn, and then, realizing how we can, finding the opportunities to continue to affect change, and figuring out, kind of what's next. And, without being open, we can't do it. And so, for me, having to close a chapter of my life and leave the military was really, really difficult. And I kind of resisted it, but in the death of a dream, it is a destiny oftentimes. And I think that, just having an open mind, and finding opportunity, and looking for the opportunity in things, focusing on what you have, not what you don't have. It's just those are all the themes that kind of, that I've experienced, over the last few years, and that have really fueled me to get to where I am, and will continue to fuel me. So I just think that it's so important to remember that.
Wow, what a great video.
Yeah, isn't that really key, Adam? I mean, I think Dawn's story is one. The first time I saw it, they interviewed probably a dozen entrepreneurs through that program, and you get some clips like that. Just amazing real life stories of real people who showed perseverance. And just curious, if you're watching, please go ahead and drop in the chat some things that stood out to you. Adam, I might ask you what stood out to you. You mentioned you thought it was a great video. So what was what tugged at your heart and made resonance for you?
Well, I think early in the video, there was a part where she mentioned that she was obviously feeling down. She had gone through a serious trauma, and she was feeling sorry for herself, which is forgivable. I mean, goodness gracious, if I was in that situation, I can't even imagine how I would be feeling. But for her to witness another overcome, maybe being a few steps further down in the journey, almost instantaneously put some things for her in perspective. And that fueled her to kind of reevaluate her mindset. And I think that that's true in life in a lot of ways. And I don't want to get too philosophical, but, sometimes it takes that aspirational ideal, that seeing somebody else overcome or succeed or whatnot to motivate. A young person in Pop Warner football sees their star, overcome something in the NFL, at a game or off the field or whatever, and that fuels them to be the next motivator, the next generation. And sometimes intrinsic motivation can be very difficult to achieve depending on your circumstance. Not everybody is intrinsically motivated at all times. So I think seeing it takes that mentor, that leader, that aspirational thing to sometimes get us, to propel us. That's just what I gathered.
Yeah, well, I love that you picked up those things, because I think you two things I want to highlight. You mentioned that intrinsic motivation. In some of this programming that I cover, we call it internal locus of control, but ultimately it's not letting the outside dictate the rules of the game, right? Like if it's going to be, it's up to me, and it's not entirely, but it's, look, you got this whole circle of the world going on. We live in it right now. We don't get to control. If the government says tomorrow, hey, I'm sorry, this list of businesses you have to shut down, you can't open for the next 100 days. That's not inside our control. What is in our control is, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do to pull myself up off the floor? I used to, if I'm a restaurant, I've been closed down. Can I do takeout? Can I figure out how to move into catering? Can I shift my model in some way? Maybe there's literally overwhelmed homeless shelters that need support kitchens that I could partner with. There are things within our area of control, and we can either decide to feel sorry for ourselves. And I agree with you that Dawn's situation is amazing, and I can't conceive of what that would be like, or the just the grit that she had to have to be able to get up off the mat and keep going. Or do we allow it to crush us down? I think the other piece, I think you mentioned tenacity. The word she used was adversity. Learn from your adversity. And I would say it fuels Dawn. I mean, we got a little snippet of her story. If you ever have the opportunity to attend one of our seminars where we cover this in more depth, we hear other pieces of her story. But it fuels Dawn. that become no longer are those obstacles for her. That's just what she's going to need to do to overcome it. So I would say it fuels Dawn. Can adversity fuel you? I guaranteed, because of the world we're in today, right now, December 15th, 2020, adversity exists. And the question is, can it fuel you? A couple other things I think she said: open yourselves up to what you're doing. What's next? What is next for you? Today is what we have, and we look at our tools and we figure out what's next. Do we have that open mind to be able to find the opportunity? One of the phrases that really stuck with me, that is usually a highlight anytime we've gone through this programming, she says, sometimes in the death of a dream is a destiny. And that again, that is one of those, like, is the cup half full? Is it half empty? I mean, in her mind, let's just close the book on that chapter, and maybe your destiny is what's coming up. So I'm not sure where your businesses are today, and I know we have a very varied crowd that's going to be watching this either live stream or watching the recording later. But I would tell you to hang on to those concepts. Learn from your adversity. What can you do next? Have that open mind to find some opportunity. And we're going to talk a little bit about opportunity here shortly. And then have the idea, sometimes in the death of a dream is a destiny. That means what's coming up next, it may not have been what you had originally envisioned. It may not have been what you'd originally planned. It may not have been in that business plan and in that budget. It may not have worked out right. And that's why I say it's about our mindset, and our success as entrepreneurs goes way beyond the plans. To quote something very cliche, plans very rarely survive the battlefield. So we're in life. We're facing it right now, and what are we going to do next? So I want you to focus on what you have and not what you don't have. So let's talk about a couple things we have. And Adam mentioned this earlier. If Dawn hadn't seen other people succeed, it may have been difficult for her to choose to go forward. Who's in your network? A lot of times we hear the word networking and we think, okay, it's an environment where I have to dress up. And by the way, today is a dress up day for my kids' school, so that's why I'm dressed up here, even in the home studio. But who's in your network? Networking is not about getting dressed up, going to an event where we pass out business cards or send people LinkedIn connections, etc. In my mind, our network is the group of people we already know. It's likely why you already joined the Veterans Chamber, and if you haven't, you should, because you're going to be surrounded by other people who have like-minded, they're interested. You're going to run into other entrepreneurs. In Brent's opinion, it does not matter what field or industry these entrepreneurs are in order to provide you insight. If you go back to this concept of mindset and about adversity and about challenging beliefs and assumptions, the specific industry and the technical skill that you do is relatively irrelevant. There are some times, if you're in manufacturing and you need to figure out how to scale from a manufacturer who can only make 10 widgets a day, and you need to figure out to get to 100, you do need a specialty. And I'm not saying that those aren't important. But what I am saying is that if we're surrounded by people who are successful, who face adversity on a daily basis, who are struggling like we are, then I think you're going to learn something. I'm going to maybe drop in the chat here. It's a free opportunity that I throw in there, but I run something called Entrepreneur Encounters. It's every Wednesday at 4:30 Central. We bring together any entrepreneurs who want to come together, and we give them the opportunity to just share openly. It's about 45 minutes or an hour, depending on who comes to the event. And it's just an opportunity to get together and share. And I would say there has not been one single opportunity, a meeting that has come by, that one entrepreneur or a couple entrepreneurs did not make some critical connection or not able to share a challenge. And those are the type of connections that I'm really referring to.
I'm gonna interrupt you here for a second. I think you put it in the private chat. I'm not sure if you have, and see, here we are learning as it goes. This is like our third live stream or whatever, but I have the link here. Let's see.
You want to throw up comments? I didn't have access to the comments field here.
That's fine. Let's see. Brent's Entrepreneur Encounters. Oh, I spelled entrepreneur wrong. You know what? It's okay. All right. And here's the link. Boop. And that should have gone to everybody.
There it is. Yeah.
Excellent. Right on.
We use Bitly. It's bit.ly/entrepreneur encounters. Entrepreneur Encounters. And that'll take you to our landing page to be able to sign up. You'll get access to the link and be able to join us on Wednesdays. That's a key opportunity, I think. And that's not the only one, but obviously I think that's an important one. Additionally, when you think about your networks, just go out and spend time with other entrepreneurs. Learn where they're struggling. Learn how you can serve. Again, let's go back to that. What does it mean to be an entrepreneur? We have a passion about going out to solve other people's problems. So by making yourself a resource, you're going to learn. You're going to develop a deep network. It is not, again, about going to a group of strangers, meeting 100 people, passing out a bunch of business cards, and then, quite frankly, never interacting with those people again. It is about digging into what you have. And I believe that everyone has a network today. You know other business people. You know other people who are in this with us together. Reach out to them. Choose to make that connection. Second piece is we're talking about making connections. I want to talk a little bit. People have talked a little bit about Zoom fatigue. We're sitting in this chair. I mean, I got to get a better chair here. This chair is not a sit on my butt all day chair, but I spend a lot of time here doing coaching from this seat. How do we overcome some Zoom fatigue? Go old school. Remember when we used to just call people instead of go live on the face? It is actually fatiguing to have to make eye contact on the computer all the time just because of the nature of technology and that brief amount of lag our minds pick up on it. Sometimes consider making the phone call. Go ahead and take a walk. Throw on your earbuds, your headset, whatever you have, and take a walk while you chat with people on the phone. Sometimes that change of state, that change of way we interact, can produce a comfort level. Always being on the screen is a little bit draining. I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh man, did I get my collar right? And how's my vest sitting? And let me pull this down. That's a distraction. When we talk in real life to other people, I don't honestly get to see how I look. You get to see, but I don't. So cut yourself some slack and go back, quote, old school. But again, it's about making those connections, making those relationships. And just remember, the other person in some ways is receiving that the same way. It's like, whew, thank you. Someone actually just called me. And I don't have to get ready, be in my position, make sure my kids aren't doing stuff, make sure my dog's put away and not barking in the background. So consider that when you're making those connections, because we may not be able to get out in person, but I would challenge you even to say, hey, throw on your coat, go out and get some sunshine. And if social distancing is a substantial issue for you, you walk on one side of the street, have them walk on the other side of the street. By and large, on a residential neighborhood, you can still have a conversation and still do a lot of stuff, still be able to see people face to face if you want to. This is about what doors are closed to me. Implementing social distance and isolating doesn't mean that you can't see people. It does mean you have to re-envision how you can see people safely. And that would be just another example. I want to talk about celebrating and about getting rest. No matter how difficult your situations are right now, I believe there's something that you can celebrate about, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's in your business. They don't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be, I just hit 6 figures in sales coming up on the Christmas season here. They can be small pieces. Part of our mindset is a little bit, we are what we focus on. If I'm always focused on the negative, the downside, if Dawn was always focused on the fact that she had lost her arm and she had to go through some pretty grueling PT to be able to recover to the point where she could function, it probably wasn't going to be a successful environment. She probably was not going to want to overcome those roadblocks, avoid those obstacles, and attack those challenges. But if we break down our lives into little pieces of success, hey, just had a great pre-meeting with Adam. I feel like I got the information I need to be ready for this morning formation meeting. I'm going to call that a success. By prepping up for it in that way, I feel like I can bring better energy, I can bring better preparation, and better, frankly, mindset to the show. I think that's an opportunity you have available to you as well when you take a look at that. Whew, that's a lot. I want to pause for a second. I don't know if we're getting any comments coming through, Adam, on the chat board.
Not. We've got a couple. Alana hopped in and said from your first question that she was U.S. Army. She also mentioned that there was a TED Talk from the same person that had done the video. If anybody else has any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, anything that has to do with what Brent just went over, throw it in the comments and I'll go ahead and moderate from there and get us caught up. Sometimes there's a delay because people are watching it later, they're starting it later or whatever. So we'll go ahead and address those as they hop in. But yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. Don's done some TED Talks. There's some amazing stories out there. And to the point on the TED Talk and other resources, and thanks, Alana, for that. And thank you for your service in the Army. There are tools. So another piece I want to throw out there are tools, and I want to talk about moderating what we take in. News sources can affect, or information sources, I'm going to go more general. Information sources can affect our mindset, our perspective, and whether we're positive or negative. TED Talks are designed to be inspiring. How I Built This by Guy Raz. It's as an entrepreneur coach, it happens to be a podcast that I love. How I Built This goes through the real life stories of entrepreneurs, and you learn their lengthy history and struggles. Steve Jobs once said, it's amazing how long those overnight success stories take to happen. There is basically no such thing as an overnight success story. It's usually about, it could be like 10 years, 6 years, 5 years. They take time to build up. When we're finally aware of them and their explosion, that's great. So be aware of what you're taking in. TED Talks, I love them. They're amazing. There are other resources out there, but there are other ones I would say maybe you've got to choose to dial back. I'll just say, I know in March and April, when we weren't sure what was going on in the world, I was becoming somewhat of a mini COVID expert, to the point that someone was like, Brent, you got to stop reading that stuff and start focusing elsewhere. We can get overwhelmed, whether it's our news source, and frankly, Brent's opinion, mainstream news has really continued to focus on the negative and not necessarily the positivity. Be conscious about what you do. So if you want to talk about challenging your beliefs and assumptions, one of my beliefs is that my assumptions really was that the better informed I was, the better I would be able to serve those that I'm interacting with. There's an aspect of that is true. I've chosen to challenge the source where I get some of that information from. Not in terms of getting an echo chamber, but in terms of keeping it positive, keeping it focused on ways that I can continue to propel and help versus things that might keep me trapped and feeling a little more helpless. I want us to take a brief shift here, and I want to leave you with 6 areas of your business that I want you to reevaluate. These are some areas of your business that you may have already looked at originally when you got started, or you're getting ready to get started. But I think it's so relevant as we continue to deal with a world of shifting playing pieces, of spending habits that you can't, whatever happened in 2019 is almost not relevant for 2020 and maybe not relevant for 2021. So I mentioned as entrepreneurs, Brent's definition of the entrepreneur, and I'm lifting this from a lot of great people that I've looked at, is that entrepreneurs really focus on solving other people's problems. So I would encourage you, if you have current customers today, to spend time talking with them. Pick up the phone. If you get the opportunity to see them in person as part of your business experience, do that. Talk to them and help understand their problem. I will be quite confident that their problem today that they're experiencing is not the same problem that they were experiencing at this same time, December 15th, 2019. That they have a different problem, a different challenge. And the key is others' problems are an entrepreneur's opportunity. We're about finding opportunity and addressing opportunity. That's what's available every day. So find the problem. Now, some of them you may not be able to address and get into or be able to do anything with your current business. But others, if you're challenging your beliefs and assumptions, I do think that you will have the opportunity to say, wait a second, that's something that we can probably get into, or that's something I could tweak our current product line to be able to address, or that's something that we already did address, but it wasn't something that we were highlighting strongly. The next, I want you to figure out about your customer. Who would you say that ideal customer is? Again, people's buying habits and patterns have shifted. My wife and I try and enjoy a date night once a week if we can. That experience obviously has changed greatly. When movie theaters are closed, it was harder to do indoor dining at restaurants. We were finding different ways to take walks and those type of things. Doesn't mean that we're not doing date nights. It means that we're doing them differently. So as an entrepreneur, when consumers start doing things differently, there's usually an opportunity out there. We're usually going to discover there's a need that's not met. I can tell you I may need to up my gear because taking a 1 hour walk this morning when it was 16 degrees this morning is not quite as exciting as it was when it was 66. Just as an example, find those opportunities and find out if your ideal customer has changed. Find out what's happening to them right now. And the only way you can do that is not by sitting at home and saying, I think I know what my customers are doing. It's by interacting with customers. Have some conversations. You'll find, again, in this socially distanced world where we're on Zoom a lot, figuring out how to have a personal conversation can actually be a relief and a gift. And take that opportunity to embrace that and do it. Third, I want you to look at the solutions that you're offering. Your solution may be fantastic. Maybe you just need to reframe what it is that's addressing the challenge and that problem that the customer is having and what the feedback you're getting from your customer. But I want you to look at also what additional solutions that you can provide. I believe the businesses that are going to thrive through this environment are continually figuring out how to pivot, reinvent, and make themselves stronger and more availing to the needs of the customer. I just believe it's what's going to separate us from those who say, I'm going to just keep chunking along and doing what I've always done. I want you to stay on top of what alternatives are out there. There are other entrepreneurs who are already taking this advice and putting it into action today. And so there are alternatives to solve the problem. There are some alternatives that don't involve paying money. And the example I gave is I got to get some warmer clothes. Well, I could throw on another layer of a coat. I could figure out how to wear 2 pairs of gloves. I could get a better scarf. I could pull on a hat, all out of my closet. Or maybe there's an amazing product that, I don't know, I plug in on a USB and it keeps some radiant warmth from heating coils that are inside the gloves or the coat or the jacket or whatever. But you have to know the alternatives. If you're in the business of providing hand warmers, you got to know what all the other options are, whether it's a direct competitor of a different brand of hand warmer, or it's a different, what you want to do though is what's the problem? The problem is my hands are cold while I'm walking. What are all the ways that Brent can solve his hand warming problem? There, I just warmed my hands. Those are all things that you need to think about when you're approaching your solution. And this is where you really get to the mindset part of challenge your beliefs and assumptions, because we don't want to believe that something that maybe an alternative isn't very good. Well, blowing on your hands in the cold's a poor idea because you basically get them wet and they'll chill out faster. True, but if I blow on my hands all the time, I may not be buying your product. So you're going to have to figure out how to address that in a way that fits. In the same way, as obviously COVID has changed this world and changed people's buying patterns, what we are finding is that people are still spending money. Those who have money are still spending money. And so there is an opportunity out there if we choose to figure out how are people solving their problem. And then let me shift to point number 5, which are the benefits. Then how am I going to articulate my benefits in a way that makes sense? And I would say this wraps right back to what is the problem that you're solving? What does your ideal customer want? What are they saying? And try and mirror their words. You know, I may argue that perseverance, tenacity, and overcoming adversity are the same things. However, Dawn's words that she repeated many, probably 5 or 6 times during the clip that we watched, she focused on adversity. So if I'm going to talk to Dawn, I could talk to her about perseverance. That may mean something very different to her. But if I talk to her about adversity, all of a sudden now we're meshed together and we're starting to have a conversation that works. So as you're talking to your customers and you're talking to people that you want to interact with, that you're learning from, feel free to mirror their exact words. Write down verbatim what they say, because words matter. And sometimes the meaning we associate with it changes. But I believe you'll start to find some key words that really stand out that mean what your customers want them to mean, not what you want it to mean. That's another one of those challenges. If it's what I think it needs to mean, then I need to go out and test it. And I need to ask people. Finally, and sixthly, I want you to focus on your value proposition. This is your big why. This is why you are 10 times better than everyone that's out there. And it's really articulating why you are uniquely positioned, or your service, your product is uniquely better than all those other alternatives you came out with. And being unafraid to say, hey, look, if Brent wants to go around blowing on his hands in the middle of the cold, windy winter to keep his hands warm, that's great. But I'm going to give you the value proposition that for a simple And here the price doesn't matter because we're talking about value. It's not a price proposition. It's not a commodity. I can buy anything cheaper somewhere else, almost always. But I can't necessarily get value somewhere else. So I want you to focus on the value. It's not what I'm paying. It's my perceived benefit that I'm getting. Utility, to use an economic term. But it's value. I may pay $99 for something and value it much more because it means more to me than something I pay $5 for. Or the $5 item may actually address my issue perfectly. And for me, that's where the value is. But you've got to articulate the value proposition. And the big key is you got to figure out how to make it different. How is Digicopy different from FedEx Office, formerly Kinko's? That's up to them to figure out how to differentiate their model. When I was in school, it was Kinko's was open all the time. You could always, if you needed to make copies, you could always go there and make copies. So how do they differentiate themselves? It might be personal service. It might be building the relationship. It might be doing delivery when others make you come in. I don't know what it is for you and your business, but in your articulation, figure out what makes you different. And the hint is that it is not price. That puts you in a commodity position. There are a few people who can play in commodities. They tend to be big. They tend to have names like Walmart and Amazon. And they tend to be very difficult for the solopreneur or the small business to be able to match. And frankly, it's not a place I want you to be. You are valuable. You have amazing worth. You bring amazing talents to the game. And I want those to be able to come through, and I want them to shine through in your value proposition. That's what I'm cooking at, Adam. How are we doing right now?
Doing great, man. There's a lot to digest there. A lot of really quality things. I love all 6 of those items. If any of our folks have any questions, comments, anything that they want to dive deeper on as we kind of round third base here, please throw them in the chat. And if you have questions when we're no longer live, feel free to throw them in the chat. Whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, please throw your stuff in there. Get in touch with us and the Veterans Chamber or Brent or a combination of the two are happy to address any questions that you may have. That's what we're here for. We're here for you. Brent, do you have any additional thoughts, or are we rounding third and getting waved on home here?
Well, we're definitely getting waved on home, and I appreciate the time. I just wanted to on a couple things because I love, by the way, how you're really embracing the video platforms and providing lifelong learning. I think that's a key. I want to encourage all entrepreneurs as you're out there. Services like this, services that your chambers offer, are amazing resources. We talked a little bit about networking. One opportunity I want to pass out to you is we talked a little bit about Entrepreneur Encounters. I do want you to sign up for that. It's a free opportunity. I plan to keep that free for as long as we keep going. It's a service that ultimately gets driven by the entrepreneurs because it's about a platform to allow entrepreneurs to meet other entrepreneurs. I also want to encourage you to reach out on LinkedIn. Connect with me at LinkedIn, Brent Halfwassen. Hopefully we got my names showing up there on the screen for you.
Sure do.
Go ahead and reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to make that connection. Use my network to be able to serve your network. One of the keys that I didn't mention when we talked about networking, you may say, well, I don't have that right person in my network. I may not have that right person, but because I'm now connected with Adam, we actually connected, I think, last week after we had our initial preview here for the morning formation. Now I can reach out to Adam and be like, Adam, hey, when we're talking, I may share a particular issue and say, Adam, I'm really looking for someone who's figured out how to master Twitch so far. And Adam says, oh, that's amazing. I was just talking to this lady the other day.
I definitely haven't mastered Twitch. That's for darn sure.
But and that may be the key that I say, well, Adam's not an expert either, but Adam may know someone who's the expert. They say, hey, have you considered talking to this person? They've been using it, as a key function of their business. That is how you make the network work for you. And that's why I want to talk about encounters. What's an encounter? The reason I'll be honest, I started out with, it was like business owners networking or something completely lame. And we didn't get any traction. And I think it's because the concept of networking is a little bit intimidating. But an encounter, the way I envision encounter, I use the word, it's sort of a chance meeting that happens to bring an amazing outcome. And that's what I want you to do. And so it's just in that conversation with Adam or that conversation with anyone else. If you're talking to Alana, in that conversation, those may spread out, and you figure out it's not the person that they know that you know directly, it's the person that they know or the person they've heard about. And you continue to build that network and continue to find a way to connect. I happen to use LinkedIn heavily as a business platform that makes sense. Whatever works for you and your business, whatever matches your brand, take that opportunity to connect. And I would say just go one step further beyond the connection. Send a personal note. Write down in your calendar, hey, today I'm going to retouch 3 people I haven't talked to today. Drop a note, drop them an email, throw them something on Facebook, whatever you want, tag them on an announcement that you're making. Find a way to keep those connections alive. It's not about having a list of 1,000 people that you might be able to interact with. It's about keeping those relationships alive. It's about letting them know who's there. And I just guarantee if you're constantly cultivating, if you're constantly looking to solve problems, solutions and ideas and new parts will come up for you, and you will break that cycle of chronic uniqueness and that isolation that sometimes can come from being an entrepreneur, where you feel like no one relates with where you're at. There are people out here that relate. I can relate. Adam can relate. Your chamber friends can relate. It's out there. There's support for you. I just want to encourage you to reach out and get it.
Greg just said great thoughts on keeping connections alive, and you're both right. You're speaking my language here. I'm a huge fan of I'm not good at a lot of things, but networking and keeping relationships alive is one of those things that's meaningful to me as a person and as a professional. And those touch points, just reaching out to somebody just cause, and getting to know somebody on a deeper level. We appreciate the value of our friendships, but a lot of people in the business and entrepreneurial world see those relationships as transactions when it should be the same as your relationship building in your personal life. Then when you have a product or an offering, or you're raising money for something, if you're in the nonprofit world and you're a fundraiser, then merely letting people know and you understand what's important to them and what makes them tick, just letting them know that those offerings exist, those transactions, the monetary stuff, they sort themselves out if you focus on the relationship. That's what I believe, at least. But yeah, great thought, Greg and Brent as well. Yeah.
So I would just say, as we leave out from here, don't let adversity keep you down. Keep that resilience mindset. Keep challenging your beliefs and assumptions. You are not stuck. This world does not control what you do, where you go, and what to do next. That's totally within your power. There are lots of things that are not in your power. Go ahead and put those to the side for now and identify those pieces that are yours. Identify that problem, talk to your customer, understand your solution intimately that you can answer to solve those problems that your customers are facing today. Figure out what those alternatives are, clearly define your benefits, and then focus on your value. That value proposition is really going to be the key pitch, echoing those exact words back that your customers told you. If you are constantly in that cycle of innovation and reinvention and challenging beliefs and assumptions and putting the pieces aside that aren't right and hanging on the ones that are validated by others, building your network to provide support that you do have, it is out there, continue to rebuild it or rekindle it, then I think you're going to give yourself a strong foundation to work with what you have, using the words of Don Halfacre, and give yourself a great start to 2021. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Right on. Thank you so much, Brent. That was 45, 50 minutes of straight up quality, valuable content. I hope everybody has an opportunity to watch this all the way through, and especially it's very apropos given our circumstance with the pandemic. I'm sure a lot of professionals, not just entrepreneurs, are feeling down and out. I know, my 6 months ago, I thought COVID was going to take me out personally too. I think everybody's had those COVID blues and ups and downs and whatnot, and just, like taking your insights to heart, I think will really help professionals and entrepreneurs overcome and reevaluate their mindset so they can move forward effectively. Brent, that was spectacular. For those of you that are still with us, check out the comment section. I threw a link up there to connect with Brent via LinkedIn, also his entrepreneur encounters. Those are in the comments as well. And then check out the link tree. It's scrolling around the bottom of the screen there. Linktree / Wisconsin Vets Chamber, or WI Vets Chamber rather. So you can see us on across all platforms. Give us a follow on Twitch. We're brand new there. We have 2 followers, and one of them is me, and the other is our executive director, Saul. So would love to see some growth there. Given Twitch is more of a video game, or at least that's how they started through video game streaming. It's diversifying, but maybe we need to start playing some retro games, and then we can slip in messaging of, veteran, the value of veteran friendly hiring and whatnot. We'll see. We're experimenting with that, but we appreciate all of you being with us. Join us tomorrow. We're going to be live at 11:30. Same place, same channels, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, for our office hours live, which is an complete open forum with no subject whatsoever. Our guest is going to be Dan Newberry, who is the co-director of the Veteran Business Outreach Center, as well as CEO of Lift for the 22. And open forum. Any questions? We're going to talk about whatever's on our mind, and any questions you may have for Dan about his business, about our business, about Dan's modeling career. If you want things to get weird, okay, fine. We can talk about that too. But tomorrow, 11:30, same time, same place. Appreciate you all being with us. Brent, thank you as well, my friend. This was very, very cool. And yeah, everybody have a great rest of your week, and we will see you soon. This is the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce. I got to make sure to say that too.
There it is. Thanks, Adam.
Yes, sir.